Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to do a deep dive into Alphabet's business model. And to do that, we're going to be using their financial filings, their 10K for 2023, and the 10Qs for the first and third quarters of 2024. Alphabet, of course, the parent company of Google, a giant in the tech world. But how does this massive machine actually work? That's what we're going to be figuring out today. So by the end of this, you'll have a good grasp of how Alphabet makes its money, what its biggest costs are, and what really makes it unique.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, when they think of Alphabet, they think of Google search and they think of advertising. But looking through these reports, you see it's actually a lot more multifaceted than that.
Right. It's not just about ads popping up on your search results. Their financial filings really paint a picture of a company that's been diversifying its revenue streams. For example, in their 2023 10K, we see that advertising revenue was still dominant, over 75% of their total revenue. But you can see they've been strategically building other income sources.
Yeah, and they break down their revenue into three main categories: Google Services, Google Cloud, and what they call other bets. Google Services, that's where you find their advertising business, but it also includes revenue from subscriptions like YouTube Premium and Google One.
And speaking of diversification, the Q3 2024 10Q, it shows some pretty impressive growth in their Google Cloud revenue. Seems like that's a real strategic focus for them.
Yeah, they definitely seem to be seeing cloud computing as a key avenue for future growth. It looks like they're trying to compete more aggressively with those established players like Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Azure.
So it seems like they're really trying to build a more balanced revenue portfolio, which is, usually a good sign. But, generating revenue, that's only one side of the equation. What about all the costs that go into running this massive operation?
Well, that's definitely worth exploring. And the 10K and the 10Qs break down their expenses in a lot of detail. We can see there are two primary categories: cost of revenues and operating expenses. So cost of revenues, that's directly tied to delivering their services. And then operating expenses covers areas like research and development, sales and marketing, and general administrative costs.
Yeah, and actually, I noticed something interesting in their 2023 10K.
Yeah.
They changed how they depreciate servers. And this accounting tweak, it actually had a noticeable impact on their financial reporting. It's just a good reminder of how, even those seemingly small details can influence a company's, their financial picture.
Absolutely, yeah. Understanding these costs is really crucial for anyone trying to assess Alphabet's long-term prospects. It gives you insight into their operational efficiency and how they're, allocating resources strategically.
Okay, so we've touched on revenue and costs. But what about the value proposition they actually offer to their customers? It's more than just providing those search results, right?
Oh, definitely, yeah. In their 10K, they outline their mission as to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. And they've really gone beyond those basic web page listings to offer a much richer and more interactive experience.
Right. I mean, think about it. You got voice search, image search, multi-search. They've embraced so many different ways for users to interact with information. It's a far cry from
Yeah.
the 10 blue links we used to see.
Mm.
I mean, for you, how has your use of Google products changed over time? I mean, it's pretty amazing to see how they've adapted to those changing ways we consume information.
Yeah, I think that really speaks to their ability to anticipate and respond to those changing user needs,
Yeah.
which is really crucial for any tech company trying to achieve long-term success.
Now, in a tech landscape that's getting increasingly competitive, I mean, what sets Alphabet apart? What's their secret sauce, so to speak?
I think one of the key differentiators is their heavy investment in and integration of artificial intelligence across all their products and services. They really see AI as a core driver of future innovation and a way to maintain their competitive edge.
Yeah, and you see that commitment to that cutting edge AI in their 2023 10K. They introduced Gemini. It's their most advanced AI model yet. It's designed to understand and operate across, text, code, audio, images, you name it. It's like this super powered brain for all their products and services.
It's a big part of their strategy for sure. It allows them to personalize those user experiences, improve those search results, and develop innovative new products and services.
And speaking of innovation, all of this requires a massive and efficient operational machine.
Yeah.
So what are the critical cogs in the Alphabet ecosystem? What keeps it all running smoothly?
I'd say there are three key areas that really stand out: research and development, their technical infrastructure, and their ability to attract and retain top talent.
So starting with R&D, their Q3 2024 10Q, It shows significant expenses in this area, which really highlights their ongoing commitment to developing those cutting-edge technologies.
And then there's their technical infrastructure. They need those massive data centers and robust networks to support that global user base. And the Q3 2024 10Q shows substantial capital expenditures on that front.
Yeah, and lastly, I mean, in a competitive field like tech, talent is paramount. And their 2023 10K, it emphasizes their efforts to foster that positive work environment, and offer competitive compensation to attract and retain the best in the business. It really is it's a war for talent out there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, those three elements, R&D, infrastructure, and talent, they all work together to form the backbone of Alphabet's operations. It's a really complex interplay of factors, but that's what enables them to innovate, to scale, and to deliver that value to their users. So, welcome back to our deep dive into Alphabet's business model. In this part, we're going to really zero in on the financial engine that's driving this tech giant. So let's take a closer look at their operating income and how they're managing those massive costs we talked about earlier.
Yeah, we've seen that big picture of their revenue streams and cost structure. Now let's kind of zoom in on some of the finer details. And I got to say, these financial reports, they can be a little dense, so I'm glad you're here to help us break it down.
Absolutely, yeah. So if we look at their Q3 2024 report,
Yeah.
it's clear that their operating income has grown significantly year over year, but it's not just about the absolute numbers. The real insights come from examining how this income breaks down across their different business segments.
Right, so I'm guessing Google services, their core business, that's still the main driver of profits, right?
You got it, yeah. Google Services continues to generate the lion's share of their operating income. But it's worth noting that Google Cloud is catching up quickly. Their operating income in that segment has surged, which suggests they're successfully scaling this rapidly growing part of their business.
So it seems like that strategy of, diversifying their revenue streams, it's paying off.
It's a promising sign for sure. It's also interesting to note that while their other bets are still operating at a loss, Alphabet seems committed to nurturing these ventures for potential future growth. It's a classic example of balancing that short-term profitability with those long-term strategic bets.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, investing in those emerging technologies, it can be risky, but the payoff could be, huge down the road if those bets prove successful. But let's not forget maintaining this level of profitability. It's not easy, especially with rising costs kind of across the board. So how is Alphabet tackling this challenge?
Well, they've adopted a multi-pronged approach, focusing on both operational efficiency and pricing power. If you look at their financial statements, they reveal this constant drive to streamline processes, optimize that resource allocation, and just generally squeeze more value out of their operations.
So they're trying to get leaner and meaner on the cost side.
Exactly, yeah. And the Q3 2024 report shows that these efforts are bearing fruit. Their operating margin, which is a key measure of profitability, has actually improved year over year. So that indicates they're getting better at controlling costs, even as the revenue grows.
That's pretty impressive. But cost management, that's only part of the equation, right? They also need to keep those revenue streams flowing. So where are they finding those growth opportunities?
Well, we've already highlighted the impressive growth trajectory of Google Cloud, but their advertising business, particularly search and YouTube, that remains a powerhouse. Their financial filings show that they're constantly innovating in the ad space. Introducing new formats, targeting options, and measurement tools to attract advertisers and enhance that value.
It's interesting how even in a mature market like online advertising, there's still room for growth if you're willing to innovate
Yeah.
and really understand your customer needs.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And speaking of understanding customer needs, let's shift our focus to Alphabet's investment strategy. This is where we can really see their vision for the future taking shape.
Ooh, yeah, this is where things get exciting. They're known for pouring billions into these various initiatives, but it's not just about, making incremental improvements. They're thinking big.
Yeah.
They're aiming to push those technological boundaries
No.
and really reshape entire industries.
Absolutely. And their investment strategy seems to be guided by two overarching themes. Expanding into those new markets
Yeah.
and doubling down on their core strengths, particularly in artificial intelligence.
In the Q3 2024 report, it provides some insights into those investment priorities.
hmm
They continue to invest heavily in Google Cloud infrastructure, which signals their ambition to really become a major player in that cloud computing market. And that aligns with, their focus on diversifying those revenue streams like we were talking about earlier.
Right, exactly. And at the same time, they're making these substantial investments in areas like, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and healthcare technology. So these are bets on potentially transformative technologies that could revolutionize how we live and work in the future.
And these investments, while substantial, they represent a calculated bet on the future, right? They're positioning themselves to capitalize on those emerging trends and create those new avenues for growth in the years to come.
Exactly, yeah. They're not just trying to keep pace with competition. They're aiming to define the future of technology.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this section: operating income, cost management, and investment strategies. But to fully understand Alphabet's, financial health, we need to examine one final piece of the puzzle, and that's their balance sheet. So stay tuned for part 3, where we're going to dive into the details of their assets, their liabilities, and their overall financial stability. All right, welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Alphabet's business model. We've covered those diverse revenue streams, their commitment to innovation, and those really bold investments in the future. Now let's wrap things up by examining the foundation of their financial strength, their balance sheet.
Yeah, it's always fascinating to kind of dig into Alphabet's balance sheet. What immediately jumps out at you is just the sheer size and strength of it. They have this enormous amount of cash and marketable securities on hand, which really gives them remarkable financial flexibility.
Now, we're not talking about loose change here. Their Q3 2024 report, it shows tens of billions of dollars in cash and cash equivalents, plus this hefty portfolio of marketable securities. It's like this giant financial cushion.
It really is, and this financial fortress allows them to navigate those economic uncertainties, to pursue strategic acquisitions, and to invest heavily in those future growth opportunities. It's really a clear indicator of their consistent profitability and that disciplined financial management.
Now, no conversation about a balance sheet would be complete without talking about debt, right? So what's their debt situation look like?
Well, while Alphabet does carry some debt, it's relatively small compared to those massive cash reserves and their overall asset base. Their debt to equity ratio, which is a key measure of financial leverage, it's quite low.
So they're not overly reliant on borrowed funds.
Yeah, nope, not at all. And that reduces their financial risk, and it gives them more control over their future. And their financial filings also reveal access to these substantial lines of credit, which provides, additional financial firepower if needed.
It sounds like they're in a really strong financial position, but it's not just about having a lot of cash and low debt. It's about using those resources effectively.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And that's where we see Alphabet's, that strategic prowess. They're not afraid to deploy that cash strategically, whether it's, through share buybacks to reward those shareholders, investments in promising startups to kind of expand their ecosystem, or capital expenditures to strengthen their infrastructure.
And speaking of capital expenditures, their recent reports highlight these significant investments in data centers and network equipment, which seems to align with their push into cloud computing and AI, both of which requires significant infrastructure.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
These investments are crucial for supporting those growing demands of their cloud computing business and those ambitious AI initiatives. They're essentially laying the groundwork for future growth and competitiveness.
So here we are. We've reached the end of our deep dive into Alphabet's business model. We've explored their revenue streams, their cost structure, their investment strategies, and their really solid financial foundation. What a journey.
It really has been, yeah. I mean, we've covered a lot of ground, gaining those valuable insights into the inner workings of this tech giant. And it's clear that Alphabet is a company that's at the forefront of technological innovation, constantly evolving and adapting to that ever-changing digital landscape.
All right, so that's it for this deep dive. But keep those brain gears turning out there. The world of tech, it's always changing. And informed citizens like yourselves, you're essential for navigating this complex landscape. So until next time, stay curious.